So, one point, or I'll give 3 points tonight about how to become better allies. And you would say now that you're open-minded because you have friends that are gay. But let's say, what if your child becomes gay? Or what if your brother is, or sister is part of the community? Is that easy? Or how would you talk to them? Because being uncomfortable means that you are willing to listen. And you would want to, again, know more about the person you're talking to. So anybody here have a difficult question to ask me? So no one's an ally, nobody wants to ask anything.
Sports has always been a very machismo or a macho thing. And that's the struggle that the queer community faces. And it's the fact that they have to try to go against that masculine energy. They're surrounded by all this toxicness.
My first sport is actually football. I played from grade 5 all the way through the end of high school. There was a bit of a problem when I was in high school. There was a lot of bullying against lesbians, and I didn't feel comfortable disclosing my sexuality to my teammates when I was in high school. So only a handful knew. Largely, I was pretty uncomfortable with it. I knew it was only in jest, but at the end of the day, it's still, all jokes are half meant, and they still kind of meant it.
I guess it's been the same for everyone in any sports or any venue. There's that difficulty because there are those microaggressions towards queer people and athletes, even more in like male-dominated sports such as climbing, basketball, or whatever. Those intrinsic homophobia ingrained upon society towards people. I mean, people mean well. I've only experienced like a couple of backhanded comments. I wasn't surprised, but yeah, it happens.
I started when I was in grade school, so I was actually part of the football varsity team. I was bullied outside of the team during classes. It made me feel outcasted and different. But I love the sport. I know I like running and I like football, but it was hard to play with teammates who don't value you as a teammate. I eventually just stopped playing. Being an athlete, I felt that I wanted to at least spread awareness about inclusivity in sports because everybody deserves to play the sport. Everybody deserves to climb. They all deserve to reap the benefits of the discipline in any sport.
I started working in Beehive last year in October. The first time I met Karl was around that time. I just recognized him as a regular at Beehive, and I felt like there was an immediate sense of recognition between the queer regulars at Beehive because we aren't a lot. I was really impressed about Pride Nights. We would talk a little bit about organizing something like more Pride-oriented events around June. So that's when I started getting the hint. But I was really impressed to know that Pride Nights in both Beehive and CCM were entirely from him.
I knew Karl as someone who's very prominent in terms of online presence and someone who's very open and vocal about advocating for queer spaces and queer athletes. So I knew that about him for a long time. That's something I admired about him.
My advocacy is to spread awareness about creating safe spaces in sports. That's what I've been doing this past June. No? I've been going to gyms, so I went to Beehive, I went to Climb Central. I talked to the Philippine Rugby Football Union coaches about safe spaces in sports. And then I've also been invited to talk for a number of BPOs and also for Adidas to just keep talking about safe spaces in sports and like how these different sports that I play in, it's actually already a safe space. It's not creating a new safe space. It's just echoing or like just letting everybody know that this is a good sport to play, and if you want to try it, you're safe here. It's good to come here.
Feeling safe anywhere is really the make or break of whether you'll have a queer presence in your community. And I feel like the fact that there aren't a lot of queer people in the climbing community, or visibly queer people in the climbing community, at least that from what I can see, kind of points to the fact that there had been a pre-existing culture of like, I'm sure it wasn't blatant homophobia, but definitely a very cis heteronormative patriarchal culture that really stemmed from the whole macho culture.
I think it's important because finally the conversation is being open to these spaces that are, again, cis-het or straight-dominated spaces. So I think it's important that they see the struggles of the queer people in terms of microaggressions in society. And I think it's the opening these conversations help us move forwards towards creating safer spaces.
There's a law that just got passed. No, it's called the Safe Spaces Act. It's Republic Act 11313, if I'm not mistaken. And it says that any public space should be a safe space. Now, it doesn't matter if it's a park, if it's the side of the road, if it's the grocery or the gym. No, so these are public spaces. They are mandated by law that they are already safe spaces. So if you catcall or if you have homophobic or misogynistic remarks, you can actually be penalized for that. No? If you don't research on it, you probably wouldn't know about it. No, so if it's being implemented well, I don't think it is, because people aren't aware of it yet. And I think that it's important to at least get people talking about it. Well, I've attended Pride March since 2017. So, sa Manila pa siya eh. And it felt good. Like, the first time I joined it, I was like, wow, this is a queer community. Just celebrating themselves, you could see the rainbow flag everywhere, and you didn't feel intimidated, or you didn't feel like you have to put on a face. You could just be there and be comfortable. It was literally a safe space, diba? And then the pandemic happened, and people had to lie low again and everything. But this year, Pride March happened, and I met siguro 5-10 people who it was also their first time, and then they were saying this is such a fun place. I'm enjoying myself, ganyan. I'm just thinking, if you were there 2 years ago, just a lot crazier. But either way, the goal was still there. It was a safe space, and people enjoyed themselves. People were just waving the rainbow flag everywhere, being proud of who they are.
I feel like it really just helps, even if you're only a handful of queer people in the community. It's just it's really good to stick together, because you're the only people who can understand each other and be able to confide in each other. And they'll be the first people to understand if you tell them that you don't feel safe in a certain space. Just really important that queer people stick up for each other and stick together, because I really believe that as much as we can enforce safe spaces, the existence of a safe space is mostly contingent on the presence of other queer people.
I guess opening the conversations, regardless if you're part of the queer community or if you're part of the straight community, I guess opening the conversations and having an open ear and an open mind towards the struggles and how you can use your privilege as a straight person to create these conversations and spaces, so everyone is involved.
You have the privilege to be an ear for those in the community, not just to speak up for them, but also to listen to them. It's not a simple thing to be an ally, but it means a lot for the queer community that you're there.
Actually, last night I was having an interview with someone else, and she shared with me the term safer spaces. And it's ironic to think of safe spaces in a very binary sense, right? So it's not a black or white, this space is safe, this space is unsafe to queer people. It's more about making that consistent effort to make sure that people of all identities feel included.
No matter what you do or no matter who you are, you're always welcome. And us specifically, we're very open, and we're very open to welcoming you regardless of the time and space.
I had nobody to look up to, nobody inspired me when I was growing up because I'd always look for like queer athletes, ganyan. But I could barely find any here in the Philippines. So that's what I felt like I had to do. I read a quote somewhere that's saying that you have to be the person you needed growing up. And that just resonated so much because I want to inspire someone to take up sport. Let's see the comparison of coming from a football background or like from team sports to joining non-traditional sports. I wanted to prove to others that gays are strong. No. Bakla is not derogatory. Or that mindset was very dependent on the fact that I had to prove other people wrong. It sort of changed while I kept practicing the sport because while I was improving myself, people also noticed it and they were inspired to also join. And that just like made me feel like, okay, I don't have to prove others wrong. I don't have to live my life trying to prove myself to others. I can live my life inspiring them instead.